What up, y'all? It's Golden Spaces, an Odyssey original podcast with Justin and Nat, and we are here. We're here on this day. Has there always been this many games between the NBA Finals?
Oh, you mean like days
Days
off?
off, yeah,
I think so because I remember last year in the finals, I was very anxious in between each 2 or 3 days in between each game.
yeah.
It felt like an eternity. So yeah,
I mean, the WNBA is here, so it's not like we're like without basketball, but still,
right.
it just feels very long between games.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. But we here. We told you at least once a week you'll get us. And it's without fail, especially with Draymond Green, his damn podcast. It's always gonna be some kind of news. So Steve Kerr joined him. Steve Kerr joined the Draymond Green show. Is that the name of it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Draymond Green show.
You're wondering how two people that cover the Warriors don't know the name of his pod? Because I don't listen to that shit. But I hear all about it because it's on Twitter all the time. So I might as well listen to it because I'd be knowing everything that's discussed on there anyway. Um, but yeah, anyway, we here. We gonna get into it. Let's do a vibe check. It's been a minute. Been a minute.
Wow, vibe check.
I mean, the vibes are chill.
The vibes are chill right now. I
The
think
vibes are
looking at
chill.
the finals, especially, you have to think that the Warriors definitely have a good shot at getting back to where they need to be in the near
According to
future.
Dub's Twitter, we would be getting
It's done.
smashed
Yeah, it's over with, right?
by Denver, and we'd have no chance, and we should be running scared.
Yeah, that type of stuff has uh never made sense to me. But people like to overreact, very emotional. Um, so it is what it is. But I'm watching the finals, thinking the Warriors have a very good shot next year if they make the right moves. And yeah, so I
All
guess the
right.
vibes are in a good spot right now, all things considered.
And we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk finals later because I actually feel like the Warriors are being disrespected a lot. But we'll talk about that a little bit. Let's get to the immediate news at hand, and that is Steve Kerr going on Draymond Green's podcast. And lots of things were said. One of the funny things that were said was he said something that Eric Spoelstra mocked Ramona Shelburne for.
Hmm.
She was asking him about his strategy against Nikola Jokic in the finals in terms of making him a scorer in the last game, which is what they attempted to do. We all watched and saw that. And he said her question, sort of dismissed it, wouldn't even answer, and said, that's something someone with an untrained eye would say. And to me, it was very apparent that he just didn't want to address that question because didn't want to make it seem like they were disrespecting Jokic, didn't want to have any commentary around it. So that was the reason for his response. I felt like he didn't have to respond in that way, though. It was incredibly condescending. And Twitter took that and ran with it and tried to use it as a way to either dunk on Ramona, unnecessarily,
Hmm.
or, you know, the pretentious folks, decided to use it as a way to be like, "Oh, yeah, asking questions that NBA Twitter theory thinks. What the hell else was happening on the court? Let's not be stupid, people. Let's not be stupid. It's not an accident that he only had 4 assists and scored 41.
Right. I mean,
And
it's very clear.
by the way, it's not a matter of figuring something out. It's just the least evil. It doesn't mean that it's always going to work.
Hmm.
There could be. It
They
hasn't
almost won.
happened yet in the playoffs, but there could be a game where he is turned into a scorer more than he normally is, and they win. No
Right.
one is saying it's the magic formula, but it's at least from Spo and the Heat's vantage point, the best way right now to try to win a game. And so that's what they did. That's it. And everyone's just like, it's nothing like that. Yeah, well, listen, that is what they did. Whether how much you attribute that to being effective is a different question, but that is what they did. And Ramona's question was perfectly fine and valid. And, it was funny because Steve Kerr comes onto Draymond Green's podcast and literally is like, they tried to turn Jokic into a scorer. And
right.
Is that the untrained eye? Hey, leave it up to me. I don't say the best things about Kerr, but, I'm sure, Eric Spoelstra isn't going to say that about his fellow coach, that he's the untrained eye, and Draymond Green, one of the smartest defenders, generational defender, the best maybe of his generation, said the same thing. So Spo, just cut the theater, please. I don't have time for the bullshit.
Right. I think it was clearly like some gamesmanship trying to not piss off the Nuggets, I guess, or, create too much controversy around it. But it was very clear that's what he was doing. I mean, I felt like they were going to do that from the jump in the series. I thought that was one of their
people.
Yeah, like that's one of their ways to potentially flip the series into their favor. Clear strategy.
And by the way, not like some super novel basketball concept, like just basic basketball 101.
We've seen it happen.
The Warriors, have been deployed in past series. They did that versus LeBron in 2015. Like, you can't beat us alone. We gonna stop these other dudes, and that's it.
Right. Teams have tried to do it. Well, the Warriors kind of did it to Luka Doncic as well. If you have a defender that you feel can hold his own a little bit one-on-one against a player of that caliber that can also hurt you with the pass, then you try to live with that player going for 40, 50 points, individually and stifle everybody else. That's a clear strategy that is not new. It's not anything that's crazy. You don't need no crazy basketball IQ or know all these X's and O's to see that. And yeah, it is what it is. He definitely did a little bit too much with the way he handled that question.
He did. And basketball is not as overly complicated as people try to make it. I am not suggesting, look, there's mad shit I don't know. And as much as I criticize Steve Kerr, no, I don't think I know more than the man about basketball. But people just really try to make it. People do the most to try to make it seem like they're so smart. It's so complicated. It's, using all these fucking words to break down the simplest shit. It's mad annoying. Stop it. It's stupid.
Right.
It's like, you sound like you're an elitist, and honestly, it's not how most people consume the sport. It's not. And if you, again, this is just my opinion, and I'm not here to tell anyone how to create content, right? But when you talk over people's heads, and this is something I learned as a lawyer, a lot of big words and stuff like that, you lose people, just speak in layman's terms. That's one of the reasons we praise Tim Legler as much as we do is not because he gets on and tries to sound like a smart ass he simplifies things and breaks down basketball concepts in a translatable way, that most people can understand.
Facts. It's very gatekeeperish with a certain almost like subculture of NBA Twitter specifically, where it started with the whole analytics movement, with a lot of people, using different stats and stuff like that and trying to use that against people who may not be as well versed in those things to try to weaponize it against them to show how much smarter they are than them. And then the average NBA fan started picking up on those things, and they moved over to
play calls,
play calls and X's and O's. And it's like, well, I know what they're going to run. So, I know more about basketball than you.
Terminologies, Wildcat, Billy Boy, Bob, what the
pistol.
fuck?
It was like pistol. Jokic is a genius with the pistol. Dude, he's making a fucking gun sign with his fingers. What else could that be? So
Obviously, guys, I'm just throwing out names. I know Wildcat is like a football thing. I'm just saying that, like, it's so ridiculous. Like, just
right.
basic terminology, You're
Hmm.
not impressing people. Most times you're turning people off.
For
It's
sure.
pretentious.
For sure.
But, what do I know? What do I know? People tell me all the time I don't know anything about basketball and I have an unsuccessful podcast. So, what do I? I'm just saying this is what I'm told daily. So I guess, I know nothing. But also younger content creators, people who are coming up, and I still consider myself someone on the come up, but they hit me up all the time asking for like advice. And my advice is always be yourself, but it's also like don't do shit like that. It's silly.
Hmm.
It's just it's just, it's such a turn off. But let's get back to Steve Kerr and Draymond Green. Draymond Green has a little bit of that in him. Like he doesn't use like too many super big words and stuff, but he talks about basic things and acts like,
Hmm.
I'm here to school you. I'm here to educate you. Like, bro.
People who don't know the game of basketball. He loves saying shit like that. That's like his favorite thing to say. And then he'll say some like super basic thing like that we all
Super
thought.
basic.
Yeah, it's cool, Draymond.
Oh
People,
my
people know
God.
more
It's
than they
like,
used
I don't know why everyone has a need to feel like,
to.
I don't know. I don't know, you know. Um, but whatever. Anyway. Um, so Steve Kerr goes on Draymond Green's podcast and they're chatting largely about so at least I listened to actually most of it, but it started off as like uh, a shower Steve Kerr with love. Like Draymond Green was just praising him incessantly. It sort of became like, oh, is this like Braun for you? Like, do you think Braun is sitting here and this is why? I
It's
mean, it was
like, give
just
me that extension. That's what that is.
exactly. And that's just like when Kerr is like, we can't win without Draymond and all that shit he says in the air. Like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, we know. And still, it was like, KD's the best player. He's the
Right.
best
Right.
player in the
Right.
league. It's like we always know when it's contract time and when it's this stuff. And that's why I laugh when like fans go back to these times like, yeah, but like when they said this, I'm like, bro, like y'all need to learn when people like
Right.
this is
Right. Right.
like yesterday. Y'all all attacking Ramona and just don't know like this is theatrics right now from
Hmm.
from Spolstra. Like y'all gotta learn when people are just saying things to say things and not like always take it at face value. And so I'm not saying that Draymond Green doesn't think highly of Steve Kerr, but like he was laying it on pretty thick um
Hmm.
at the beginning of the podcast. So it started with him like giving Steve Kerr all these flowers and best coach in the NBA. And I get it, he's your own coach, but you still have Pop who exists. Many who think that's Eric Spoelstra, So I'm not saying that you're going to say another coach is better than yours, though. Steve Kerr has no problem going on shows and saying other players are better than his best player.
Right.
Um, you know, um, and we know that Draymond Green has no problem throwing his shooters under the bus and saying like, their shooting struggles
Right. Right. Right.
contributed to losses. So I don't really see why it was so necessary to be like, just declare him the best coach in the league because I don't think anyone thinks that. And while a lot of people think that Steve Kerr is a very good coach, I don't think most people think he's the best coach in the NBA,
Mhm.
despite all of the winning. I don't think that's a consensus, honestly.
No, it's not.
Um, so anyway, he showering him with praise and it's funny because there was a point he asked Steve Kerr during the podcast about like adjustments and like at what point like do you decide to make an adjustment, but it was in reference to the Heat because they were they were analyzing and breaking down what transpired in game 2 of the finals and what Kerr saw, blah, blah, blah. So it was just sort of funny because it's like, bro, this is not a coach who like adjusts like very quickly. So it was just interesting, that whole dialogue to me. But then they got to a point where they kind of started talking about the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
And things were said, but in particular, there's a comment that really has been floating around social. It's been the subject, social as an NBA Twitter, but it's been like the subject of a lot of conversation because Steve Kerr, and actually this wasn't when they got to the Warriors portion, but like Steve Kerr in crediting the Miami Heat goes on to say like, I think he's talking about I think he starts off by talking about Caleb Martin and the fact that like he was like basically the star of the last series, but that he's not really getting burned in this series, or like Gabe Vincent, I think it was, who was like hot earlier in the game, but then like Spo decided to play Duncan Robinson in the fourth. And so he's like, no one's over there sulking on the bench. And I'm paraphrasing, but he's basically saying like those guys aren't complaining about minutes or being on court. And he's like, like when we've had that Draymond, when everyone's just committed to winning, like that's what you need. And again, I'm paraphrasing, but that's the gist of what he said, right? Like, am I misrepresenting him, Justin?
No, you're correct.
Okay. So that happens and everyone's reacting to it, right? And some people are saying like that's more a shot at the front office. Listen, I don't think it's just meant for the front office, in my opinion. But even if that was the case, how do you think the players are going to receive it and hear it? Like, it doesn't fucking matter, Like, are you going to go to them and say, oh, no, 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 no. Hey, guys. Hey, Jordan Poole. Hey, Jonathan Kuminga. Maybe Moses Moody, who knows who else you had in mind when you said that, but like, we didn't mean that for you guys. Like, how do you think they are going to hear and receive what was said? So I don't know why this was necessary to go onto a podcast and say. I don't know why, unless the Warriors have already made some decision, when you're trying to manage a situation with Jordan Poole and Draymond Green, the person, by the way, who assaulted his teammate, like, do you go on his podcast and say something like that, And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Steve Kerr is not aloof here. Like, he's not a moron. So there just has to be some reason behind why you're doing that, because it's incredibly just, I don't want to say it's lacking in awareness, because I just don't believe he can be lacking in that much awareness. So it was really kind of surprising, that's the way that I received it. Like, everyone had all these other, theories and this and that, but I just thought it was pretty bold and also surprising. And I'm wondering what that means, like, because I don't really know if you're deciding to keep Jordan Poole or going to lean in on him, but I just don't know that that's the right approach,
Yeah, I think it was very targeted and intentional for sure. I think, like some people said, it was targeted at the front office and it was targeted at those players as well. I think he just doesn't care how they receive it. I just think he wants to get that message across to all those people involved, whether it be, hey, front office, get us more players that fit into roles and don't have these lofty self expectations for themselves that go beyond the team. And hey, younger players, if you are going to be on this team, fall in line pretty much, or else we're not going to win.
Yeah, but
And
you
whether
also
he's
need
right or
them to
wrong in doing
win.
that,
You
I don't
need them
think
to play. You need them to be invested. So I don't
right.
think you can just
I wouldn't have
I
gone
don't think
about
you
it the
can
way he did.
isolate them in that way,
Right.
because you need them. That's the thing. You can like say, I don't care and they need to get it together. But at the end of the day,
You
like,
can lose him doing that.
yeah, y'all didn't win, or y'all struggle because Jordan Poole did not play well. Now, he's not the only reason, but that was a huge reason, right? So I don't know that you can try to ostracize him more. And then you need Jonathan Kuminga. We're not going into next year still fucking playing Anthony Lamb.
Right.
So unless you're trading him, unless you know that is happening, unless you know the trade partner, I don't get this strategy.
I don't get it either. I think he's trying to send a message that he don't want those guys really on the team, because it can't be any other message. I think he's just, he's just tired of the whole like trying to develop thing, because he's not really good at it. Like, just call a spade a spade.
Preston, you admitting Kerr is not good at something? I'm proud of you.
Yeah. I mean, I've said that there's I give him my criticisms of Kerr plenty of times, but one thing he definitely, I think he's still a great coach, but regardless of that, he hasn't done a great job of the whole development thing, whether it be him holding on to his convictions of making sure that older guys play and guys that he trusts to carry on his system and stuff like that, or he just feels like they're not ready for whatever reason. He hasn't put them in the position, I don't think, to necessarily succeed in the roles that they need them to fill. And I think he's just trying to send a clear message that he just wants to fill those roles with other players, I think.
But what if that doesn't happen? That's the thing.
That's where I think he definitely made a mistake, or it could blow over. Like, they could just see it and scoff at it, or they can really take it to heart, which is, I think, the more likely scenario, which then it could become an issue, right? Like, Jordan could now look at them and just kind of resent everybody, other than Steph, most likely, because of the way, obviously, the whole thing with Draymond, and now this thing with Kerr, and I'm sure a whole season of it from Kerr, where he's just kind of like, bruh, y'all are like,
I don't know. I just feel like it's incredibly ungrateful, because you yo-yo Jordan around, and then when Steph goes down, he's part of the reason y'all got to the postseason,
right?
And then it's just, I just feel like these things always come full circle, right? Whether it's needing someone to be reasonable about their contract negotiations, or like something like, you guys may have more leverage over these guys now, but you won't always have more leverage over them. And unless Kerr's just decided like he's leaving when the core group leaves, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can say that, and that's fine. But like, if Mike Dunleavy's the successor, whoever's going to be in there, they have to think beyond y'all. That is like, we can say when Steph's here, go all in, and that's all it's about. But literally, their job is to think beyond that time. They would honestly be derelict in their duties as a GM if they weren't thinking about beyond that. It doesn't mean that you totally ignore what's in front of you, but you have to take it all into account. You have to, like, that's fine. You want to leave, but if some of these players are still here, we have to still be able to manage those relationships with the players and their agents. And now later, when they are due a big contract or something, and like, you need them to take a discount on one thing, for some reason they're like, no, fuck you. You remember when you wouldn't do this for me, and you wouldn't do, like, that stuff all comes back, like continuing to just like shit on people and be a dick. I don't know. I don't think it's a very good strategy. And I'm not saying to kiss anyone's ass, but it's very like, to me, again, I don't want to use lacks awareness, but it's like, to me, it lacks accountability. That's the word that I'm thinking of, because you're basically saying like, there's nothing
He's saying it's all their fault. Yeah.
And I don't see it like that. Like, you fucking chose to play Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome, two-way players, over guys who were drafted. That's fucking malpractice to me. Over guys that could help you. You didn't even play those. One of them you didn't sign, and the other did not see minutes in the postseason except garbage time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yet you thought it was better to play him during the regular season and not develop the guys who could actually help you in the postseason.
Bingo.
Does that make sense, Justin?
It doesn't. It doesn't make sense. I mean, like the funny thing is, like, he played Lamb usually next to Kaminga a lot throughout the season because of spacing and all that type of stuff. And then Lamb doesn't play in the playoffs, but Moody plays. Like, that was just so weird to me. Like, Moody plays and Lamb and Kaminga don't play, even though they played pretty much all regular season. That was just so bizarre to me. And then you get to the playoffs and things are so much about matchups and all this type of stuff. But I definitely think Kaminga could have helped in that Lakers matchup. Was he the difference between winning and losing? Probably not, but you never know what could happen. He's a young athletic guy, but regardless of that, I think there needs to just be a much clearer path for those guys to contribute in the way that Kerr wants them to contribute. Like, if you're yo-yoing guys and not giving them consistent roles, then you can't really expect them to grow within the role that you're asking them to do. It's just not really going to happen. A big reason why Jordan was as good as he was last year going into the playoffs because he got consistent minutes all year. You know, his role kind of went up and down as guys were in and out of lineup, specifically with Clay and Steph. But when the time came for him to, you know, play big minutes and important minutes, he was ready to do it because he got the reps in. There's no other way guys can get ready unless they get the reps in, right? Like, so if they're going to be on this team, they need to be able to get the reps and they need to not feel like their coach hates them. And that's just step number one and number two for them to actually be players that you can use in high leverage moments, which you need them to be. So, yeah. And you're not off to a good start by kind of throwing them under the bus like that.
Man, listen. Draymond Green lacks accountability, and clearly Steve Kerr does, because the only accountability we get from his fake accountability after you do shit after the game. I didn't have them ready.
Yeah.
I didn't have them ready.
Right.
Bullshit. You know, like, oh yeah, that's on me. Yeah, no shit. We know it's on you, fucker. So I don't know. And this is why I just continue to say, like, this is gonna be a big off season for the Warriors. And I do think one of those two are getting traded, if not both. And it's unfortunate, you know.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I agree.
But anything else on Steve Kerr and the Draymond show?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's move on from them. Before we get to the NBA Finals, there's some other bit of news that dropped today that could potentially affect the Western Conference that the Warriors are in. It's probably not really going to affect anything. But Shams, I would call him Shams. Is it Shams or Shams?
I have no clue. Let me check.
I'm sticking with Shams. So Shams reported that allegedly, Kyrie Irving has been trying to recruit LeBron James to the Mavericks. Now, it's funny because not too long ago, I want to say about a week and a half ago, Kyrie did like an Instagram live and he was like, can y'all please stop asking me about free agency? Like, you got my family bringing up at dinner, like the conference finals is still going on and all of this bullshit. You know, and I'm saying bullshit because most people think that Kyrie's camp or Kyrie, whoever, leaked this, you know? So anyway, he hasn't refuted it. And he loves to be like, I didn't say that. Why are you speaking on my name? or whatever. So, or just nothing to even suggest that it's lies. So we haven't heard from him, but this report came down. And then I think Chris Haynes did like some further reporting on it. And he deleted a tweet, but there was still an article he wrote. And some of what was in the tweet was still in the article, but he was, basically suggesting that the Mavs were prepared or were going to try to do something to acquire James this year. But then the Lakers went and did their acquisitions, and so nothing happened. But also, I don't think they could have moved him based on rules or whatever. So the report kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. But everyone just started talking about if this is a potential, if it's possible, putting things into the trade machine. But I just don't see why the Lakers would ever do this.
Right. I can't see why. I can't see why LeBron would do it. I mean, I don't think it necessarily gives him any better chance of winning a title than if he was still in the Lakers. Yeah, it's just it would be a weird thing, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. So anyway, so that happened, and most of us don't think that's likely. But I just gotta tell you, if LeBron does actually change teams again, if he does it, I'm gonna finish the sentence. I'm just
I don't think he on that no more. He's definitely on the he's trying to get Kyrie to the Lakers and Lakers trying to get him and Kyrie trying to get him to the Mavericks. It's just two dudes crying for more help. Just get it done, man, on your own. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but get it done for real.
Not for real, yeah.
It's two of y'all. It's Kyrie and Luka. If you put the right team around them, they're supposed to be able to get it done.
Simple as that.
And Luka's the number one. You don't even gotta be a number one because we know you're not a number one. So what is the problem?
Right. He trying to be the number 3 like he was in Brooklyn when he could just score and not worry about anything else.
You already convinced one star to come to Brooklyn, and that didn't go well. So why is anyone trying to go to Dallas, Kyrie? Please.
Not happening.
Not happening.
Mark Cuban and LeBron don't like each other, right?
Who?
Mark Cuban and LeBron. They have their history. I mean, they met in the finals, obviously. Well, the Mavs.
Right.
So,
whatever. It was a crazy report. It was comical to me when I saw it, but I'm just saying. The only thing I care about in that report is if it's actually true and this man leaves and goes to another team.
Another what would be presumed to be a super team at that point.
Does anyone even have a big 3 anymore?
Actual big 3 with 3 all-star caliber players. I'm trying to think. I don't think so. I do not think so. The closest thing that we have to it.
Bucks?
Nah, I wouldn't say that. I guess the closest thing that we have to it would be, no teams really.
Can't be Suns because Aiden's
about
to be dominating.
Right, and he's about to get traded. They said Chris Paul is washed at this point.
Warriors are not a big 3, guys. Just so
the Warriors are not a big 3. They're a big 1, and then big-ish 3 or 4 after him. After him. Yeah. I mean, if you let ESPN tell it, the Lakers got a big 3 with LeBron, AD, and Reeves. That's unstoppable trio right there. Or if you let Twitter tell it, then Jokic, Jamal Murray, and take your pick. MPJ, Aaron Gordon, they just got a big 5.
Aaron Gordon, who used to, let's move on to the Nuggets because We can't pay Kyrie and the Mavericks no damn mind anyway. Um, so yeah, it's 1-1 in the NBA finals, Justin. And coming into this, you had what? Denver in 5, right?
I did.
Now, are you sticking with that pick?
I mean, I have to at this point,
Do
but
you?
kinda.
When
I mean,
presented
I
with
don't want
new
to. I don't want to.
information, you can change.
I mean, I could. I don't want to like renege on my prediction,
Okay,
but
this is a safe space. If
this
something
is
had
a safe
changed,
place. I mean, I'll change it to 6 now just because they got one in
you
Denver.
don't have to. I'm just saying, like, genuinely, do you still feel it's 5?
At this point, no, because they're going home to Miami for 2 games. I think at this point they'll split the 2 games in Miami,
That's what I think
um,
too.
and then I would assume Denver wins games 5 and 6. Uh, so that's yeah, that's kind of
Why
how
are we assuming Denver wins 5 and 6?
I
I
do
mean,
think.
I have Denver in 6 too,
Yeah,
but I don't want to be right actually. So,
yeah. At this
and
point, I don't want to be
I
right
also
either.
had Denver in 6, but when I picked it, I hedged from the jump. Like, I didn't
Hmm.
care. I wasn't bullish. I was just like, yo, honestly, like the Heat could win this series. And that's how I
Yeah.
always felt. I always thought it was gonna go. To me, I mean, I feel like nowadays, like the only way people consider a series long is 7 games. But if you go past 5 games, to me, that's a long series, and
Yeah.
that's how I look at it. So I always thought it was going to be a minimum of a 6 game series, um, and I just thought either team could win. Uh, but I always lean towards the team that has the best player on the court. And
Hmm.
so that's usually the way that I go. But like this postseason, like the Heat just keep defying too many freaking odds. So I'm like, all that shit goes out the window. Just goes out the window for me right now at this stage. So that's why I was just like, yeah, but the Heat could win. Like Denver's more talented, but the Heat could win. And it was as simple as that for me. But everyone had like their different reasons.
Yeah, I do think the Nuggets are the better team, talent wise. They have the best player, but the Heat do have the better coach. Um, so there is a path for them, like the path similar to Game Two, just kind of making that the theme of the series going forward. I think is their path to winning. Win the 3-point battle and make sure everybody, or at least most of the players other than Jokic, are kind of held in check. Uh, and take advantage of the Nuggets defense because for some reason people think they have a good defense and they do not. Jimmy and Bam get in the paint at will against this team. They collapse and they generate a ton of open threes, which we saw in both games. But in the second game, the Heat actually made those threes. So there's definitely a path to them winning this series. But like you said, lean into the best player in the series, leaning towards the talent. I would just assume Denver wins the last 2 games of the series after it gets to 2-2. We'll see.
So it's interesting, right? It's interesting because so like you mentioned, the Heat didn't hit their shots in game 1.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of, oh, this is who the Heat really are. Like now we see blah 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 blah. I didn't think that's who the Heat really were. Um,
Right.
but people seem to think people first of all, I don't like when people are disingenuous because people keep saying, look, they didn't shoot that badly. They shot 33% from 3. Like, guys, they started shooting well at the end of the game when it was like not in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, they did go to zone, you know what I'm saying? So they switched things up and that may have aided that. But it still was like when the game was not in hand, Denver at that point is not really, trying to play and win. So like that was not real. They started off shooting abysmal. Like they could not hit anything. They were missing everything. So I'm not looking at like what it ended up being for the night.
Right.
But I'm just like, they're not going to shoot like that,
Mm-hmm.
every game or probably not even next game. So it's funny because they had like a great shooting night in game 2, and people were just like, they're not going to shoot like that again. I'm just like, you're going back to
Every
Miami.
team says that, and they do it again.
I'm like, but
Celtics
like
said
we've been
that.
watching them do this all postseason,
Right.
and they're heading back to Miami. It's not like they did this in Denver. They are the first team to take one off of Denver at
And win.
home.
That's facts.
And then they're about to go back to Miami. Like, Denver can win a game on the road. They're capable. But, like, I just don't see them getting the next 2 games. So I agree with you that I think it's going to be a split. But it's just funny to me because people are saying, like, no, they, you know, look at how they had to shoot. I'm like, they didn't have to shoot like that, you know?
Right. And another point is they're shooting wide open. Like, a team is going to hit a good amount of threes when they're shooting them wide open because your entire defense is collapsing every time somebody gets the ball in the paint because y'all have no rim protector. Like, it's not like they're hitting
game 1. I was like, I see the Heat with a lot of wide open shots. They just miss. So, like, they're generating.
Right.
They're generating open looks. They are.
Yeah. And even some contested shots at the rim they missed in game 1 that they just made in game 2. Bam missed a bunny layup on Jamal Murray in game 1, and then he finished it, dunked on Michael Porter Jr. in game 2. It's like those type of plays make a huge difference. Bam made a lot more of those midi pull-ups in game 2. I do think he should just in general be more aggressive towards the rim because they don't have anybody athletic enough to stop him at the rim. But yeah, like you said, they're generating good shots, and teams who generate good shots typically are going to hit a good amount of those shots. Like, it's not like they're hitting step back contested threes and Denver's just playing this great defense that the Heat are just outperforming their shot profile. They're good in good shots and they're going to hit them. Like, so yeah, like I said, it's anybody's game when Denver's defense is this bad.
Yeah, last week on Friday, so what day was that? That was the day after game 1. We had Nakai's Duncan on, brother from another, and he was my guest for that day. And I asked him about the Heat's 3-point shooting because of the way it was in the regular season and then how it like just turned up in the postseason. And so the question has been for many people, when are they going to regress back to the mean, you know? And or is it like this is who they are, or you know, whatever. And you know, he said like, you know, I'm always just going to use Steph's 3-point like shooting struggles last year as an example because this is like sometimes anomalies just happen, you know, and the anomaly was actually, it seems, the Heat having just a poor 3-point shooting season, you know, because they actually were good, very good, and that's what Nakai's pointed out, a very good 3-point shooting team the season before, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I like maybe they're not gonna be as hyper, you know, efficient as they were last night or like in the Bucks series, but they can make threes and they will hit open threes. And their role players are playing with unbelievable confidence, whether it's Strus, whether it's Caleb Martin, whether it's Gabe Vincent, they're playing Duncan Robinson, they're playing with incredible confidence right now, you know? And there was like an update today on Tyler Hero where it's kind of sounding like he may not be as ready as was being suggested to come back, but he also said like he doesn't want to mess up anything, which I think is good the way that he's talking. And so if it makes sense, where it makes sense, but you know, don't want to interrupt things. And so, you know, I hope like if the Heat go on to win, that he gets to make his impact on the series, even if it's one game once, you know, because I know it's hard. Like if you just sit out and don't win anything and then they win, you don't really feel like you're a part of it. So I hope he, you know, gets the ability to do that. But regardless, it's just that team is playing with tons of confidence right now. And their confidence doesn't waver.
Right.
Their confidence does not waver.
If you look at their like Nakai said, if you look at their shooting from last season or compared to last season, all individual players like Caleb Martin, Strus, Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, all of their shooting was down this season from last season, like considerably 3 or 4 percentage points. I think a few of those guys are actually 40% shooters before this season and dropped down to like 35%. So this, like you said, this is kind of like really who they are. They just had a team wide slump for majority of the season, and now they're shooting their real percentages, and teams are kind of like thrown off by it. When you got that much shooting on your team, and they added Kevin Love at the trade deadline, who is another knockdown shooter. It's just tough to guard. It is very tough to guard, and when you got a defense like Denver's, it's even tougher to guard. So they got a shot. But one thing that is like kind of sticking out to me is that Jimmy, he isn't as aggressive as a scorer as he was in the first round in particular, but it just kind of looks like he's like a step off, a step slow, and maybe just the whole run is taxing his legs. That the ankle injury that he had early in the playoffs
Like
maybe caught
Kawhi in
up to him a little bit.
2019.
Yeah, exactly. It's really giving that same vibe off of that Kawhi 2019 run. Like he might have a little bit more in the tank, but he don't got that same pop that he had in the beginning of the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to watch how he plays over the course of the series, because he looked exhausted at the end of the game too after guarding Murray on that shot. He went straight back to the locker room huffing and puffing. So he's definitely giving it all he's got, but we don't know.
Well, it's a good thing that they're going back to Miami because his supporting cast are likely to step up there.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're gonna win. And like honestly, he's been calling his shot like since last year, to be honest. Like you can't say nothing, man. The man he might be off a game,
right.
or around, he thought they were going to get the Celtics right away, but I'm just saying he's been calling.
Yeah.
Their shot. He's like, we're going to win the 3 more that we need. I'm paraphrasing, but and look, everyone says that, but it's just like everything he's been saying been happening. So right. It's not all based in like pure basketball logic. I just cannot count out the Heat.
Yeah. He got that he got better energy than that Corgi does.
Word.
He's been calling his shot way better than that Corgi has. So some people just got that kind of like confidence about him that it almost manifests things into reality. And
fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. He's one of those guys. So it would be amazing to see it happen, to be honest. 8 seed win a championship, beating 2 1 seeds. That would be crazy. And it would be all right. I want it. Right?
I picked Denver, but I want to be wrong. And let me tell you why. Because I knew that this would happen. I knew it would happen because it always does. But like, honestly, and it's not even the best player in the world talk. It's not. Like, you had a tweet the other day basically saying like, for you, it's still Steph, and explaining your reasons. And I'd like you to explain it to our listeners. But it's not even that, because I'm not offended by someone saying Jokic is the best. I am a little offended by them saying Giannis is the best. I don't think Giannis is better than Steph or Jokic. I don't. Mm-hmm. I get it. He has like the defense and all of that, but it's always been a big thing for me that like Giannis really can't close games, and it's a little different than the Nuggets where they go to Jamal, but Jokic can still close games.
Right.
If you got to send him into the free throw line, and he's missed some on occasion, but he's not worried about free throws. It's just like he can close games. And to me, that matters, So, but whatever, right? I think to me, those are the 3 players in the conversation for it. Steph, Giannis, and Jokic. But I'm not offended. I'm not offended if you say he's the best player in the world. What I am offended by, Justin, are things like golden nuggets. The suggestion that they're about to take over the league. and run it for the next several years, and that they've basically taken what the Warriors done, and that they're a juggernaut,
Right.
you know? And I honestly hate all the comparisons to the Warriors. Like, bro, this team is not anything like the fucking Warriors, B. Like, Jamal Murray is a borderline all-star player.
When in the playoffs.
In the playoffs.
In the regular season.
Right.
No.
That's it. He's a borderline all-star player in the playoffs. That's it. Like, you know, Michael Porter Jr. may be able to shoot like Clay, but like he can't defend worth a damn.
Right.
Like, they don't have a generational defensive player on their team. They don't have someone the likes of Andre Iguodala. I'm not even getting to like the Kevin Durant teams, because when people are comparing them to the Warriors, they're talking about the earlier Warriors. The Warriors made it look so easy. People think building a dynasty and doing what they did is simple shit. It's not. It's not. And I don't like that. Golden Nuggets, bro. Like they haven't even gotten the first one yet, and y'all putting them in conversations with the dynastic Warriors. I don't like it. I think it's hella disrespectful, and it makes me even more annoyed when Warriors fans are like, "Oh my god, like these guys are gonna be running the league, and we don't got nothing for them." What? Oh, the Warriors were like, the Warriors have not. Steph has not gone less than 6. And people talking about the Nuggets would have swept them and done all. Yo, like, it's mad disrespectful.
Right.
It's mad disrespectful. That is what's getting on my nerves. Okay. Y'all are going too far now.
Oh, for sure. It really got to me when I posted that tweet asking people to rank the starting 5, the players from the starting 5 on both teams. And so many people are just like, oh, Jokic is first. Big gap. Then it's Steph. That in itself, it's like, are y'all really thinking the game of basketball through right now? Or are you really just letting this recency bias cloud your judgment right now? Because a month ago, nobody's saying that a month ago. It's because the Warriors got knocked out of the playoffs. Really not Steph's fault. I think he was, if not the best player in that series against the Lakers, a top 2 player in that series.
And it's he's the best player in the series, but Anthony Davis had the better series, right? But it's an overreaction. It's recency bias, and it's an overreaction to them sweeping the Lakers. Right. Because people rated the Lakers better than they are, just because they have 2 big names. And so because they handled them, they're acting like they're now a juggernaut. I'm like, did you guys forget the 2 series before that?
Right. And the Lakers are not that good, for one. And the Lakers had like 3 chances to win 3 of those games. Like, I feel like they're a shot or 2 away from winning a few of those games. And now it's a 6-game series instead of 4. The same way.
Same thing with the Wolves.
Same thing with the Wolves. And the same thing with the Lakers and the Warriors, where the Warriors could have easily won game 1 and game 4, had 1 or 2 shots going their way. And now they win 4-2 instead of losing 4-2, and the conversation is completely different. It's like,
and then the Nuggets went to 6 with the Suns. They only got like 4 players on that team.
Exactly, they had 2 players. Chris Paul got hurt by the end of the series. Ayton was hurt by the end of the series, and everybody else on that team sucks, other than KD and
right. Like, they are not a juggernaut. They're a very good team.
People, I wanted to save this comment really for next season or whatever. But if we're looking at this run by the Nuggets, like, all credit to them. They could potentially win this championship, whatever. This championship absolutely is a legitimate championship. But let's just look at this, right? They were the 1 seed. They did what they were supposed to do in the regular season. They played an 8th seed in the first round. Beat them 4-1. It could have went 4-2, whatever. Next round, they play a 4 seed who loses 2 starters by the end of the season, who was 2 games away from being in the play-in. And they gutted their team halfway through the season to bring another guy in. So they're really not a traditional 4 seed. Then they play a 7 seed in the conference finals who was in the play-in, and now they're playing an 8 seed in the finals. This is unlike any finals run really in NBA history, especially in recent history. And they won the least amount of games of any 1 seed or something like that.
Yes, that's the one that always gets to me.
This
Like,
is
they
not
weren't
some
even close to
crazy
60 wins. Not
exactly.
even close. They were below. They would have 53 wins on the season. Is that what they have?
Yes. And people were comparing them to the 2017 Warriors, who played, I think, an 8 seed in the first round. They played the 4th seed in the second round. They played like another 60-win team in the Spurs in the third round. Kawhi got hurt after that first game. But then they played the 2017 Cavs, who had like one of the greatest offenses of all time, one of the greatest players of all time in his prime, with help on his team, and lost 1 game total throughout the entire playoffs. It's not
Someone was
close.
like 12-3 is dominant. I'm like, okay. I said the Heat played harder teams than the Nuggets played.
Definitely.
Okay, let's be clear. Like, they played the Bucks.
Right.
And Giannis, like, people want to make like Giannis was hurt, but Giannis was there for like the one game that the Bucks won was without Giannis. So he was back in time for the Bucks to tie it up 2-2 and make it a series. They did not win. Then they go back and they don't win the next game. Like, so they beat the Bucks. Even if you want to like shit on the Knicks, and you can argue that Jalen Brunson played the best
in that series,
in that series, right? And then they played the Celtics, who for a large stretch of the season had the best record in the NBA. Not the best record in the East, the best record in the NBA. Second, they finished second, and they were close to 60 wins. That is a better team. Those 2 teams are better than anybody.
And they played all 3 of those teams without home court advantage. They haven't had home court advantage. In any series, they haven't had home court advantage.
But people are dumbing down. Someone tried to make the argument to me, like, who did they really play? I said, they played better competition than the Nuggets. I said, the only team I'm actually giving the Nuggets real credit for beating is the Suns, and that's because you went up against Kevin Durant and Booker.
Right. With like 5 games of chemistry together. But nevertheless, talent-wise, those are 2
and they lost
juggernauts
by the last game.
Right.
That's the home game you won. The game when they lost 8 in.
Facts. So, I mean, this is not to diminish what the Nuggets are doing, but it's more so to tell people to pump their brakes.
Yes!
Because they're disrespecting the team.
This is not juggernaut behavior.
It's really not. It's really not. And I know that we're going to see it next season. I just can't wait. But I know that we're going to see like the real cream to rise to the top.
Assuming people can stay healthy. And look, like, the Nuggets could win and then come back with that, or they could lose and come back with a chip on their shoulder, right?
Right.
But I very much view this like, if the Nuggets win, I view it like the year that the Bucks won. It was this like other factors contributed and provided a window,
right,
for like another team to win. But like, and yes, Giannis went off and it was great, but it was still like, you beat the Suns, bro.
Right.
Like, your hardest challenge, and the one I give credit for, is like, you got past the Nets.
Ironically, both of those teams would be Kevin Durant teams.
Yes. 7 games, and Katie was Fadolo.
Yeah. Pretty much. Both times.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, wow, I really took it back for Dolo, man. Like, you got me going back to like, do you even know what that means? Because they said that like when I was young, I don't know. This like seems like way before your time.
Cut it out.
So it's like, again, it does sound like we're trying to diminish, but it's just like, and I think part of it is too, because y'all will like praise these players and uplift them and call them best player in the world for doing this, and then discount discount what Stephen Curry has done.
Right.
And then say like Jokic has Aaron Gordon, this player, that player.
Like let's be for real for
hold
1
on.
second.
But like y'all bigging up these guys and saying they're so great, right? And still are saying Jokic can be best player in the world. But then for Steph, it's like, oh, well, he had Draymond, he had Klay Thompson.
Yeah, right.
Like, the hypocrisy, the inconsistency, but I'm sorry. Like, I'm floored by the idea of calling the Nuggets a juggernaut. And I am floored by the disrespect. I don't want to hear no fucking golden Nuggets. Stop comparing them to the goddamn Warriors. Just appreciate what they're doing. They're a very good team. They're a very good team.
And all the so-called Warriors fans.
Warriors. No. The 14-15 Warriors that they did go out in the first round. They won 50 games. A little, like, was it 51? But they hit the 50 threshold.
Oh, the 2013-14?
No, it was 14-15. The 13-14 were just under 50. I think they were like 47 wins, something like that in that range. 46 or 47. The year after 14-15, when they lost in the first round, they did hit 50. I just can't remember. I think they went over 50.
2015, they won 67.
No. 14. What? 13. 14. Wait, no, 14. The year before, the year they lost in the first round to the Clippers.
Okay, that's 2014. Yeah.
Yes, that's.
I want to say they won 51 games that year. Yeah, they won 51.
51. So Denver Nuggets only won 2 more games.
Right.
Than a pre-Steve Kerr Warriors team. Like, and they were the number 1 seed. Like, what the fuck are we doing? That was the point I was trying to get to.
Yeah. No, for real. Like I said, I was floored by the way people were ranking these players individually. Like, have y'all watched this team? This goes to show that people are watching like stats and box scores and shit like that, and not actually watching the games and seeing people's skill sets and how teams are guarding them and all that type of stuff. Like, MPJ is improved as a defender a little bit because he's 6'10", and he can kind of meet some guys at the rim sometimes, provide some rebound and stuff. But he is not better than Klay Thompson, man. Cut that shit out. Klay Thompson
51 wins.
Klay Thompson is out there getting essentially second option defensive coverages night in and night out. He's having to guard perimeter players and bigs night in and night out. He's running pick and rolls. He's having to create his own shot off the dribble, even though that's not his strong suit. MPJ is parking his ass in a fucking corner and shooting open threes all game and just occasionally crashing for a rebound, occasionally meeting guys up at the rim, but he's not taking the defensive assignments. He's not doing all the stuff that Klay Thompson's doing, and he's still not better than Klay. Like, that just threw me away. That blew me away. People talking about KCP is better than Klay. Like, come on, man. Let's be for real. I've been on a little rant for a few days about this because that really just threw me off, and the recency bias is really killing people right now because we'll see. All I'm saying is we'll see next year. Hopefully, if the Warriors do what they need to do to fill out the rest of that team, we'll see next year. Stop disrespecting Klay Thompson. Warriors fans, stop disrespecting Klay Thompson. Whether you think he deserves $40 million or not, whatever, that's cool. But like, let's at least tell the truth about Klay. I'm not going to sit up here and say he's better than Murray and like a lot of these other guys that are second options on these teams, but he's better than a lot of third and fourth options for sure. That's all I'm going to say about that.
No, for sure. For sure. People always take things too far, you know?
And
53
I get it.
Wins, 53 wins, and it got them the number 1 seed. Like, I'm sorry. That's the one for me that I will just never get over. Like, you're no juggernaut only winning 53 fucking games.
Right.
Look at the past teams we've considered juggernauts. They're always almost all over 60.
And I want to say they had the best home record in the league. Having the best home record in the league and only winning 53 games. That means
53 games is normally like a 4, 5, 6 seed.
Right.
In that range.
Right.
That's what a 53 win team typically is.
They were pretty mid. on the road all season. And really, like Jamal Murray did this in the bubble already, right? And he's doing it again as far as like elevating his game to a crazy level in the playoffs. But without that, if he's closer to which mostly been his average throughout his career, they probably don't. They probably aren't 13-3 right now. They probably still in the finals, but it's not. It doesn't look the same.
But also, the variance. And like you are gonna have a
Sometimes it's
Jamal
just
Murray
yeah,
game or two where he's not,
right.
which
And
is why I kept telling people like when they were coming into this and saying, I'm just like, I think we're forgetting that Jamal Murray, like I got it, he went on a heater to sort of end, but like he's not gonna play like that every game.
all the time, for sure. And and he's been more consistent than expected this playoffs. But like you said, the variance is sometimes it's just your year. Sometimes it's just your run. Guys get hot. Teams go on a run. They get hot, and they can go 13-3 and win all of the close games that they've had. You know what I mean? But they could have easily lost half of those close games, and it doesn't look the same. Is what I'm trying to say. So we'll see. All I'm saying is this is their season potentially,
It's
but
also the Heat season. That's why I said like I don't know how you pick because
exactly.
it's the Heat season too.
Somehow the narrative on both of these teams are different though. The Nuggets are just going to prolong, just going to keep this going for the next 3 to 4 years and build a dynasty. While this is a fluke year for the Heat, and they're just getting hot at the right time, and this is not really them. They're going to eventually not be able to shoot like this and all this type of stuff. It's funny how people are just receiving these things two different ways.
Look, and part of it is Jokic. People want to validate the MVPs. They want to shit on, Embiid for winning this year. And I'm just like, I don't understand why this is so complicated to understand. Like, I'm not trying to relitigate that whole thing, but like, no one ever had a problem. It was always about a third consecutive MVP. That's what it was about. And it was not about, because people were like, y'all were bringing up his postseason, but what has Embiid done in the postseason? Like many players have won an MVP before getting to the finals, before having deep postseason runs. That's not unprecedented. That was the point. So it's just like he's been to the postseason. Yes, he keeps going out in the second round. And so to me, I'm totally fine with like if Embiid is having like a great season next year, being like, look, he need to get to the finals before we keep giving him another MVP. That is what has been done with other players. Like Jokic is not the only one, but everyone's acting like it was like some unique shit to him. It was not some unique shit to him, And it's like we don't need to relitigate. Like Embiid did do enough to justify winning MVP. So did Giannis, but it ended up going to Embiid. All three of them did. This talk, like it was supposed to be Jokic's and he didn't get it, annoys me because I'm like, there are many who believe last year's MVP was not supposed to be his. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, that happens sometimes. You win one maybe that you should not have won. And so, but like all three were like worthy candidates.
Yeah.
So it's just like, that's what this is about. There's a need to want to crown him the best player in the world. And people want there to be a finals. And, he got the last two MVPs. And so that's why people are just like, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, because it's part of the narrative they want it to be. And right. I love when narratives get all fucking busted. That's my favorite thing.
Same. It's just inevitable. I mean, it's a matter of when it gets busted. Is it this finals, or is it next year's playoffs?
I would love it for the Heat to win. I really would. And if they win in, because I don't see that they can win in less than 6. But let me tell you something. If they somehow go to Miami
and win both games.
And win both of those games, I still think that they would not go back to Denver and win. I think they would have to but the Denver Nuggets have experience coming back down from 3-1. They did it twice in a postseason.
That's true.
They did it twice in a postseason. But let me tell you something. I think if the Nuggets are going to win this, I mean, the Heat are going to win it, they got to do it in 6, which means the thing is, I don't believe in the Heat to win 3 in a row. And that's really what it is. I felt like they needed to steal the game 1 It's so hard to win 3 games in a row.
True.
So, but if they somehow go up 3-1,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so like if they were to win in 6, that game would be on the Thursday, I think, before Juneteenth, because that would be on a Thursday. Juneteenth is the 19th. So the Friday is the 16th. So if it ended in 6, whichever team, but let's say it was the Heat, that would be Thursday, June 16th. So I'm thinking the parade would be that Monday. Anyway, the point is I'm gonna be in Florida. So that's essentially all I had to say. I'm gonna be in South Florida and I want to go to a parade, damn it.
You want to smoke that Nuggets, Pat?
Yeah. I don't even, I just hate when like people make me annoyed by things because then it just seems like I'm a Denver hater. And
Right.
I actually like both Jokic and Jamal Murray. So but I'm sorry, people talking too much.
Right. I like all the players. I mean, Jokic is my favorite non-Warrior player in the league. Jimmy's probably the second, but I don't have any animosity towards the Nuggets. It's just the narratives that kind of it kind of turn you off a little bit.
Yeah.
We're all guilty of that, but yeah, it just got to stop. The disrespect got to stop. The disrespect within this. Well, I won't even say within the fan base because I don't think these people are really Warriors fans. Because if they were, they would view their players in a different light, in my opinion. Like you don't got to think they're the best players in the world, but I think people shitting on good players that play for your team doesn't really make a lot of sense to me unless you secretly are fans of other teams. So I would just say the disrespect around the Warriors fan base towards their own players got to stop, and hyping up and having these love fests with players on other teams got to stop. And that's kind of my whole thing with Denver. The fuckery has to end.
The fuckery. The fuckery. I love that word. Okay. Wow. Guys, it's been fun.
Like
Not quite 90. Huh?
It's like a Jamaican word almost.
Oh, that's the only way I know it.
Oh,
People
okay.
who are
Okay.
not
My
Jamaican
bad.
say it.
My bad.
People who are not Jamaican say fuckery?
I'm pretty sure.
Really? I only know it from my roots. I don't know
Fuckery.
any other way.
Yeah. We don't really include the E in there. It's just fuckery. Like, but yeah. I think other people say it too.
Bro, I didn't know. I know what Jamaicans do. The other day they was calling me out. We did the watch party and spades came up. I'm like, I don't know how to play spades. And then I'm like, son, I'm Jamaican. We play dominoes, B. I don't play no fucking spades. No one taught me spades. Like, I don't know that shit. But there was mad people in the audience, like, I don't know how to play either that. I don't know how to play either. And then Kelsey Nicole Nelson came on later, and she not Jamaican. She's like, I don't know how to play. So see, it's not just but I was just like, he was like, oh my God, don't admit that. I said, no. Like, okay, I'm black, and I'm not one of these people who's like, I'm Jamaican, I'm not black. That's not what I'm saying. But like,
right.
You have to understand that like me, both of my parents are Jamaican. They're hella Jamaican. Like I grew up all in my Jamaican culture. Like there were mad stuff that I did not know in terms of like stereotypes about Black people things until like much later in life. I was like, oh, this is a thing for Black people because it's not a thing for Jamaicans. You understand? So like I'm not trying to be funny. It's like sometimes when Africans come here and they don't like get certain things. I did grow up here, so that's why I'm still very in tune with like most Black shows and stuff like that or whatever. But there were definitely certain things, you know what I'm saying? Like I know because also where I grew up too, it was all Caribbeans and Jamaicans around me. It was not really Black Americans, and so I've always identified as Black, and I'm Black, and I don't like all those like, oh, you not, all these stupid culture wars that people do. Like we're all part of the diaspora. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we all are, but it's just sometimes, people say things like, oh, Black people. And I'm like, well, not really. Cause like Jamaicans, that's not like a thing for us. And people always like looking at me with like 4 eyes. And I'm like, son, that's not my culture.
Right.
So, yeah. Like the things y'all grew up eating every night, I did not like, it was rice and peas and jerk and curry chicken and oxtail and all of them something in my household, not, seafood and crawfish, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's just not what I didn't grow up on that. I know how to
Right.
make mac and cheese because my godmother is from the South. She's from South Carolina. She passed away, rest in peace. But like, I have a South Carolina authentic mac and cheese recipe. That's not no Jamaican recipe. That's
Yeah.
yeah. We don't do collard greens, like we do callaloo. So, ackee and saltfish, I'm just like, reeling off like our foods. So there's certain things I just don't be knowing, And
Mhm.
so, I mean, I know them now, but I ain't know them, you know. I'm not gonna blow up myself anymore because there's a few others that I would have people laughing. I want my black card strip, but I know certain things. So I admitted spades the other night. Maybe if I feel like it's a safe space, I'll admit some more. I'll probably tell Justin offline so he can laugh, but y'all can't know. So anyway, what? What? I'm just saying. I'm supposed to be able to tell you things, Justin.
Yeah, you good. You good. Safe
Don't-
space over here.
Thank you. Thank you, my love. I appreciate that. All right, y'all. We out. We couldn't give you 90 minutes tonight, but you got like 75 minutes. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's extra to hold you over because we got some feedback. They didn't appreciate that we have gone to a week, but yeah, for right now, that's what it is. All right. Love y'all, appreciate y'all, but we can't make up content just to make it up. So hope y'all appreciate this. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Send us feedback, give us 5 stars, leave us a positive review. Make sure you're following. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram at Golden Spaces Pod. Tell your friends. Share it with your family. Do all the things. We appreciate it. We really, really, really do. So yeah, until next time, guys, take care.